United with Christ. Join local pastors serving throughout the border region, sharing the truth and hope of God's love and salvation.
We are united, united in the love of Christ. We are united, one body, one spirit, one love.
All right, good morning. This is Pastor Joe Williams from Westside Community Church, and I have a privilege today, once again, to be on United with Christ. And our prayer line phone number is 915-532-8518. That's 915-532-8518. And we always want you to call. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. And we're continuing with the theme this month because it was Valentine's, to show people agape love and the real love of the Lord. And the last couple of weeks, we've had different guests. We had people from CPS, and we have a room called the Jesus Suite, and bring in children there. If you were not familiar with that program, you can look it up again and see. And then we had the Westside Pregnancy Center on here, saving babies and bringing ladies and men to Christ, and trying to bring the world together underneath the Jesus Christ and pro-life. And this morning, we have a special guest with us this morning. Two special guests, all right? We have Tina Dean, and then we have Marci, who works right here in El Paso with the Legacy Adoption. And what's the whole title?
Legacy Adoption Services.
Okay, Legacy Adoption Services. And she is nice enough to come in from Dallas. They have an office here in El Paso, and it's located in our church, and we are just so grateful. But before I interview you, because this is about what you guys are doing, about adopting children, I want to read two verses this morning. The first one is from Psalm chapter 68, and I'm going to read verses 4 and 5. It says, "Sing to God, sing praises to his name. Lift up a song for him who rides through the deserts, whose name is the Lord, and exalt before him. A father to the fatherless and a judge for the widows is God in his holy habitation." And I looked up this morning, and I could have read a dozen different verses, but it always makes me think that the Lord loves those, especially who are helpless and powerless, and sometimes he intervenes in a miraculous way that's supernatural. But most of the time, he uses people like you and I to touch other people. And that is true with adoption. And then there's many, many passages, and I bet you guys know a lot more than I do, but I love this one. This is in Romans chapter 8, verse 15, and I want to read this. "For you have not received a spirit of slavery leading to fear again, but you are receiving a spirit of adoption, as sons, of which we cry out, Abba, Father." So we are adopted into God's family through Jesus Christ, and we can call him Abba, Father. And then, but before I interview you guys, something really neat happened to me this morning. Twice a week, we have special ed children who come from one of the elementary schools, actually from the middle school, and we have one from one of the local high schools. And most of the children who come are Down syndrome, and I've got to know them very well. And I won't say one boy's name, but every time he sees me, he calls me Dad. Well, obviously, I'm not his dad, but to him, I'm his daddy.
Yes.
And this morning, he gave me a big hug. He goes, "Dad, Dad." And again, I won't say his name, and I'll go, "Bobby, Bobby," and I gave him a hug. And then another boy goes, "Dad, Dad," and gave me a hug. Do you think that made my day?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yes, yes. And those of you who have never contemplated adoption, just think, okay, and I don't want to be overly dramatic, but if the Lord adopted you from hell, being lost without Jesus Christ, what better way, and it's not just symbolic, I believe you're reaching out and doing what God tells you to do, to adopt a child who needs you, but then kind of getting away from being a pastor, because we pastors sometimes, we kind of oversimplify everything. We act like if you just pray about it and work it all out and you have good intentions, it works. Well, any of you who know anything about adoption, it is anything but simple. It is complicated and it takes sacrifice. But I believe that your agency has been called by God, and you two ladies in particular are called by God to go through some of the challenges and the hoops and the difficulties of adopting. And the Lord is using you, and you guys have learned all kinds of skills. And yesterday we had a meeting with you at our church with the Pregnancy Center on how to do things better. And so I want to interview you first, okay? Tell us how you guys got started and what's the purpose of, obviously it's for adoption, but you tell us your story.
Well, first I want to just say that thank you for having us on the show, but to build a little upon what you were saying about adoption's beautiful, messy, painful, all at the same time. So it is something that's very dynamic, and it's not something that anybody should take lightly, because there is so much behind it, and the Lord's behind it. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. How we got involved in adoption. So I have been working in adoptions. I started my career in adoptions with Child Protective Services. So I've seen the side of adoption where children are removed from homes because there is traumatic things happening with them and they need to be in a safe place. So started there and was able to help people really understand that there was a story that could be switched. You didn't just have to, now that your child's been removed from your home, you didn't have to settle with saying, I know I'm not in the right circumstances and you're going to take my child away from me. I actually was talking to women about, if you're not able to work your plan and you're not going to get to a point where you can provide that safe environment, what about considering the option of choosing a family for your child to raise them for you?
Amen.
Change that story. Your child's going to know that down the road. So they're going to respect you for making that decision. It's not something that you did because you didn't love them. It's something you did because you cared about them more than anything in the world. You were really just sacrificially providing something for them that was going to hurt you. And as a parent, we often do things that hurt us, but we're doing it because it's the best for our child. So started there. And I have adoption stories in my family. I've got a sister that was placed for adoption at birth. My mom and dad are birth parents.
Wow.
So I have seen...
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I have seen the anguish that they felt in making that decision, but I also see the joy in what they have seen her become. And so there's that side of it. My dad was also adopted at birth. And so adoption goes back in my family decades. It's generational. And so I've known of those stories. And then working in adoption. And then my husband as well. He placed his first son for adoption. So we're really surrounded by it. And after I moved from California working with Child Protective Services to Texas, I started working in these private infant adoptions. And they were with different organizations that did things very well. But there were things that I saw being done that I felt should be done in a different way, more Christ-like. And Todd and I spoke about this and prayed about this and said we really felt like we could do things in ways to honor the whole triad, to make sure that every part of the triad was just cared for very well and with love and with grace, and that we could make a situation that started off with anguish, with sorrow, into a beautiful story that, not to say there isn't going to be pain, but it allowed for something to transpire where a child was being raised by really a community. They were allowed to have their adoptive family with them, but they also were allowed to be surrounded by that birth family in whatever relationship they all agreed to.
And there's a lot of misconceptions. I know yesterday at our meeting, I was asking you actually, even how do you word it? And in one point you said, well, it's not like a Hallmark movie where you see all the drama. And because one of the things I want to make sure we discuss and explain thoroughly is the difference between closed adoption and open adoption. And people have seen all these dramatic movies and things, and like you said, it is real life.
Yeah.
But part of what you guys are doing are assuming some of the technicalities, and you've become experts in this, right? And you're doing it for Christ, but you're good at your job, and that's part of what Marci's here. She's your representative here in El Paso. So keep talking. I just want to make sure we don't forget that before the end of the time.
Yeah. No, Marci's definitely, she brings life experience with her that I'm going to love for her to share in just a little bit. But when it comes to the relationships that are being built and these hallmark stories that people think of and have fear about, if you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, and some into the 90s, adoptions were very closed. Most people did not get to choose a family. Most people did not have their history. They didn't ever meet. There was a lot of shame with adoption. You were being told, you must do this. You're pregnant and you have shamed our family by getting pregnant out of marriage. So now you must place this child for adoption. And it was very different. There was...
And they said, give it up for adoption.
You give it up. You're giving your child away.
Him.
Absolutely. And how different that makes your story. Not just your story as a birth parent, but also as the child. You're not lovingly being placed into a home. It was an afterthought almost. And that is not what adoption is.
Yes. Adoption
today is very much a birth mom. Actually, we call her expectant parent until she makes that decision to place her child into a home. An expectant parent, as we're working with them, is carefully crafting what they want their adoption to look like. They're carefully crafting what they want their plan at the hospital to look like. They decide if they want to spend time with their child. They decide if they want to breastfeed. Anything and everything that they can pick and select on the way.
And you know, we don't have time, but everything you're saying, because I'm a pastor, makes me think about illustrations I could use in a sermon. Because I was thinking about in the Bible where Paul says that you were adopted as sons. It's another verse, not what I read in Romans, before the foundations of the world. Okay? So God didn't have a plan B. When Adam and Eve fell in the garden, what am I going to do now? Maybe I'll come up with someone who died for their sins, okay? So there is a lot of preparation, and there is a lot of work involved in it, and I know you guys aren't God, but you are the persons who are kind of pastoring it, and you're shepherding this process. And then you're asking the shepherd, okay, just like pastors do, help me, because we want to empower these people, and we want this child to be raised in the best home possible. And just like the Lord does, you're guiding their steps, just like the Lord guides our steps. Keep going. I'm sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, that's good. It's good. You know, in our church right now, we're studying being fruitful, and how, the Lord's really a gardener. And he's helping us to plant the seeds so that we have these beautiful things, all these different fruits come from us, all the different fruits of the Lord. And so when I think about what we do with adoption, that's what we do. We're out there really in the community planting the seeds so that people can learn and understand what adoption truly is today. And these people who come to us in these situations and circumstances can be celebrated as opposed to being condemned. We want them to feel the love that they should get for making this selfless decision that allows another family to be formed. If you think about it, when a woman walks into a pregnancy center, we know, even if she doesn't, even if it's somebody that's in high school or down to middle school, everybody knows about abortion. Abortion is a topic that is allowed to be discussed in society today. There is no walls around talking about it. It's just very known. It's across the border in both directions for you, whether it's internationally or here in the U.S. And for some reason, that is something that we talk about freely. Yet adoption is not talked about freely, and we don't understand why that is. Society has normalized abortion. They've normalized talking about same-sex marriages. They've normalized talking about transgender people. Why don't we talk about adoption? Why don't we talk about how that can be celebrated so that all the parties that are involved in this, a mom who she has done something, gotten pregnant, and from whatever circumstance that be, it could be a rape, and it could be sex out of marriage. Why isn't it that we take that situation and turn it into a celebration? Help her evaluate her options. Evaluate that adoption is something that you can consider, and if it's right for you, praise the Lord. We'll help you find a family to do that. If it's not, now you've evaluated it, and if you choose to parent and take that child home with you, you're going to never doubt your decision to raise your child.
So since we don't have a lot of time, let's see what we can put in here as far as people understanding in just a few minutes what's the process and what you do. You know, how many children do you help people to take in, to adopt? And then I want to connect with Marci and her role here in El Paso, because tell us a little more about legacy, because you just opened a branch, I don't know if that's a proper word to say, in Florida, but tell us a little more about that kind of thing.
Yeah, so with Legacy, I will say number one, we probably talk about 350 to 400 moms a year
Okay.
that come to us pregnant in unplanned situations, and they don't know what to do. And so when you look at that number, those are women that are getting educated on their options. So that's great. I would never want to have somebody go to a car and just jump into it and think they could drive away, because they're not going to be successful. Well, same thing with adoption. If we're helping educate you, provide parameters, provide a safe place to explore it, you're going to decide if it's right to do that, or if it's right to take that baby home and raise it yourself. From that number, that top line number, which is where we're providing that education, which is we're so proud of, then we usually have somewhere about 50 to 60, maybe 70 adoptions a year.
Okay.
So we are not talking women into adoption. This is 100%
So it's not a baby meal.
voluntary. No, not at all. I mean, our role really is to help just provide the guidance so that they can make an educated decision.
Okay.
And that's where Marci really comes in. Marci is one of our amazing options counselors. And so she works hands-on with these women that come through El Paso and surrounding areas to help them decide what is the best thing for them based on their circumstance.
Okay. Marci, can you kind of tell us a little bit what you do here in El Paso?
Well, I'm an options counselor. I'm not an adoption counselor. So like Tina had said, is I help a woman who comes in and says, this is an unwanted pregnancy, but I always tell them it may be unwanted to you, but it was never unwanted to God. God knew from the moment that he was creating this baby and placing this baby in your womb. So this baby is here now. So let's explore your options about why you feel like you can't parent your baby and why you're leaning towards an abortion. Because they don't come in, or sometimes they come in saying that they want to adopt, they want to place their child for adoption. But more often than not, they come and they tell me they want to abort their baby. So I just help them explore their options as to why they can't take the baby home, why they can't parent the baby. Sometimes they don't have the support system at home. Sometimes they don't have the finances. Sometimes they're undocumented. Sometimes they don't have transportation. They have all these obstacles in the way as to why they can't take the baby home and parent the baby. And sometimes to them, the obvious choice is abortion, because like what Tina said, is society talks about an abortion like you're drinking water. There are no consequences to an abortion. The baby is just a clump of cells. So when you're having an abortion, you're not really doing anything. Society won't explain to a woman that an abortion brings not only death to the child, but it brings spiritual, mental, and emotional death to a woman. And that's what they won't explain to you. So in years to come, when the woman is going through something, she might start feeling depressed or anxious and not know where that's coming from, but that's actually tied to the abortion. And we want to enlighten these women to see that abortion is not an end-all for everything. There is also an adoption story that they could weave. If they choose abortion, they're never going to know what that child could be, what that child could have been, who that child could be in the future. But with an adoption, they're actually crafting a plan, an intentional plan, where they get to pick parents, where they get to pick where the baby lives, where they get to pick whether they want to have ongoing contact with the baby or not. They get to choose all these things, you know, and it does come sometimes with pain, because a woman who chooses adoption knows that she's creating this plan, and 9 months the baby is in her womb and she's loving that baby and she's making this plan not to raise them. So it does come with pain. But once that baby is out and the baby is in the loving arms of an adoptive family and the birth mother's actually able to see that her sacrifice was not in vain, then there's a shift. You know, I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it doesn't come with tears, it doesn't come with pain, because it does. But hopefully, with most of the moms that I've worked with, they see the beauty in adoption. They see that the child that they created, a plan for, is actually living the life that they wanted to give them, but they couldn't because their circumstances didn't allow for it.
Explain a little better, because I know with our pregnancy center, a lot of times the ladies think, well, all you care about is the baby. You don't care about me, okay? So what kind of support do you give the mother? And actually, both sides are in pain. A lot of the ladies who want to adopt children are heartbroken because they can't have a child, the husband and the wife. But kind of at both sides, how do you support spiritually? And both of you can just jump in, just whatever you comes to your mind as far as the mother that's going to give her baby away, and then for adoption, and I've used a bad term, I said give it, okay, give a better opportunity, and the one who is the adoptive parents. Kind of explain that. How do you support both sides?
Well, with the mom, it's kind of different because they're coming into this plan knowing that they're going to place their baby for adoption. And yeah, it's true. Sometimes they feel like you only care about the baby, but that's not true at all. Along the way, while we're creating this adoption plan, we're not knowing if she's going to place the baby for adoption or not, because she's an expectant mother. She could change her mind at the end, right? Alongside her,
do you get mad at her if she changes her mind?
Of course
Does she get
not.
in trouble?
No,
of course not. I knew you didn't, but I just
of course
yes,
not. No, we want to make sure that she understands that if she's choosing to parent the baby, that she's leaving the hospital with the baby, and that we're connecting her to resources in the community. We don't want her to get lost. We want her to have the best chance possible to be a great mother and to raise that baby the way that God would have wanted that baby to be raised. And we know that there is a plan and a purpose for everything in this world. And if that baby is not placed for adoption and leaves with the mom, then that's the plan that God intended. When a baby's placed for adoption, it's because God intended for that baby to be placed for adoption.
Okay, so there's like 5 minutes. So here's what I want you to do, the other side of it, both of you, because one thing, and I promised you I wouldn't do anything controversial, but it's not cheap, is it? Okay, so there's a sacrifice on the other side. Explain, if someone wants to adopt a child, you got 5 minutes. Tell us what you got to do.
Yeah, so if there's a person that wants to be an adoptive parent, they go through a huge vetting process. It's not easy.
Okay.
We want to make sure that these moms and parents that come to us that are pregnant and looking to place their child for adoption, that they know that they can trust that these families have been well vetted. So families go through home studies, which involves collecting a ton of information from them. Information about where they go to church, their family, background checks, tax returns, just anything you can think of for us to understand that they are able to provide for a child. Then we're going out to their home and we're making sure it's a safe place. We're checking their references. We're checking on their health history. And then they've got to go through classes to make sure they're prepared. If I get pregnant right now, I don't have to go take classes to become a parent, but they do. We want to make sure they understand the dynamics of adoption and they're prepared for it for their child's sake and for how they interact with the birth parents when they're going through this process with them. There's a lot of unique things there. So we want to help prepare them for that. They go through orientations. There's a lot of different stuff that they're doing to get ready. We want these birth and expectant parents to know that these families are 100% ready to be parents to this child that this other mom is not ready to take care of. And that they're able to not only support them financially, but they're able to provide them the spiritual, the emotional well-being that they need to grow up in a healthy place.
So while it's, and I was looking at the time here, because this is, I have lots of friends who want to adopt, and one of them is a relative of mine, and they said, oh, I didn't know it was so expensive. But there are ways to enable it. Tell us about that, because someone's watching right now and says, I want to adopt a child, but it costs too much. So tell us what you can do.
There are so many organizations that are nonprofits that they have funds available to help people adopt. they are Christian organizations that know that there are children out there that need homes. And so you fill out an application, get oftentimes pastor's letters and different things like that to help these organizations get to know you better, to learn your heart, and to learn why you want to do this.
Sure.
And then they will give you sometimes up to $50,000 to do an adoption. It really just depends on the organizations. And some families will get multiple, so they'll pay for a whole adoption. When you think about the services we're providing to these moms, expectant parents, we're sometimes helping them live throughout their pregnancy to make sure.
So what would be the time frame from they inquire until they actually receive a child? Tell us that in the last minute or so.
Yeah, so typically, I like to tell adoptive families they should plan on it taking about the same amount of time it takes to become pregnant and have a child. If you think about it, that with everything they've got to go through, all those steps, and then the time that they're waiting to get matched with the mom, and the time they're waiting for that child to be born, is probably about 9 months to a year.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. It could be longer, it just depends. But I think something that is so important, I want to make sure everybody hears this, is that being a parent, I had kids, you've got kids, Marci's got kids. Being a parent's a painful situation for anyone. There's things that we do for our kids that we know are going to hurt us. Adoption's no different. Adoption comes with pain. It also comes out of love, and it has such an amazing journey along with it. And so when people say, I could never place my child for adoption because it's going to be so painful, I hope that they can hear that not only is adoption painful, but so is parenting.
And I got about 25 seconds left, so here's what I want to do. If they call in, they can connect up with Channel 38, and they can connect with you, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't. If you real quick, you want to say the name of your website?
Yeah. So our website that you can find us at is www.legacyadoptiontexas.com.
All right. Let's pray. We got a few seconds left. Father, I do pray for Legacy, Lord. I pray for Marci, Lord.